and kind of expose myself to a different population and a different culture.
Awesome. Thanks, Kiana. Anyone else want to share?
I can share. Similarly, I wanted to do City Year first because I wanted to put to use my interest in teaching. I hope to become a teacher after going to college, and I knew City Year would provide me the opportunity to find out if this is the right fit, the right career path. I also really wanted to give back to teachers who had uplifted me when I was an elementary student, and kind of show them how much their support meant, and kind of give that support to a new generation of students. The third reason, which I feel like people might not talk about as much, is City Year has awesome benefits. I'm going to college next year, and I am really appreciating the scholarship City Year is going to give me when I finish serving.
I can go next. What drew me to City Year? Honestly, I didn't know what City Year was at first until like I was at my internship, my senior year of college, and my field instructor, she told me about the City Year. Told me to reach out to a recruiter, an ambassador, and I can't remember her name, but she was super nice. She was very energetic. She was outgoing, which convinced me to join City Year. And also, like Ava talked about, there's a lot of good benefits, and you also get help with school and a lot of like waivers. There's a lot of partnerships with universities that you can apply for. So that's what drew me to City Year.
Hey, Alex, thanks for jumping in. If you want to introduce yourself too, and then the question that we're answering is just what drew you to City Year?
Okay. Well, I guess what drew me in is that like when I graduated college, I graduated college like in spring of 2021, so I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do next. So I kind of looked into I bumped into the City Year via just one of the recruitment emails that got sent out to me, and I started like looking into like mission and values, and I was like, yeah, that seems to be a good fit. And then I applied, I got in, and I've been doing it for this year, and it's been really, really great. I've really enjoyed looking with students, and that's kind of like why I've stuck around, is like trying to be the mentor that I needed when I was like their age, and I work in high school. So yeah, and then obviously, like we were talking about before, the benefits of getting scholarships for grad school. I'm definitely looking forward to taking advantage of that. So yeah.
Nice. Thanks for sharing, everyone. So my next question is, what factors did you consider before accepting your invitation to serve? And for those of you that are second years or returning AmeriCorps members, or are going to return next year, same question with that too. Like, what factors did you consider before deciding to return? And kind of what led you to say yes? Some of you talked about this a little bit already, but yeah, if you want to share a little bit more.
So I can share. So now I currently serve my second year in Chicago. So I'm not at the same site I started with. And I think the factors that made me I considered when I applied to be a second year at this site were also benefits. I don't drive, so in Michigan it was kind of hard to get around. Granted, my service year last year was all virtual, but this year it's in person, and so they provided like a bus card in exchange for like volunteering with CTA, and the bus system here is amazing. So that's really like the first benefit that really drew me in. Also, like the network just seemed to be bigger. Like City Year was much more well known, I feel like, in Chicago than it was in Detroit. So that was like a big factor for me because I still didn't know what I wanted to do at the end of my like this year. I know now, but like in hindsight, I had an idea for like what I might have wanted to do, or like a nonprofit I would have wanted to work for. And they had like a partnership or a connection with City Year, so that was really convenient for me, and that was a big factor. And then also culture. This site is bigger, or this site is bigger than Detroit. So I thought that would also give me like a chance to build stronger community, stronger culture, and immerse myself in a culture very similar to where I'm from, city-wise.
I've already touched on this a little bit, but the main reason I decided to serve with City Year is the opportunity to see if teaching is kind of the right career path, if this is the trajectory I want to follow. And I think what makes City Year kind of unique compared to other teaching programs or gap year programs is you're in the classroom working with a partner teacher while they're instructing, and you're kind of assisting them, helping in the background, but then you get to lead an after school program. At least in City or LA, that's how it works. So you have both that kind of like back of classroom assistant experience, and then you kind of get to lead and see how you would operate your own classroom. I think that's been really helpful. Another thing that was important for me was location. So I know City Year you can apply to a few different locations, and I made sure to choose a location where I already had a network of people who I could rely on and help, or reach out to if I needed help. I think that's a really important factor.
Yeah, same thing. I agree with Ava. It gives you a chance to like experience like working in the classroom before you actually become a teacher of your own. I'm a social work major, but my passion is working with kids, inspiring them to accomplish their goals and accomplish their dreams regardless of any challenges and any obstacles. So I feel like what I took in consideration also at first when I started, I did not have my license just yet. So I had my family take me to work every day, and I was just taking the location in consideration because of the fact that it's a commute and everything like that. But now I drive, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But worrying about, not worried about it, but like the factors is like making sure like you're inspiring the kids, make sure you come every day 100% yourself, just show them who you really are, and you get a chance to like in a way heal because I didn't have like a mentor as a kid. I was looking for a mentor, but it like they gave up on me kind of. But coming back and just giving them the opportunity to see, okay, I'm here for you, and you have somebody right there with you to help you and become successful.
Yeah, definitely like having the opportunity with Stadir to like kind of like, break the cycle of like I guess generational trauma is the word. It's definitely a big part of it's one of the most fulfilling things that I've done with Stadir. And yeah, as far as like why I decided on Milwaukee, it's I don't know, I've just lived here a long time. I have a really strong support system here. And then yeah, just the reason I decided to I'm returning next year as well. Um, partially because like I want to continue that support, and also yeah.
I just wanted to add something. So I wanted to also like emphasize the location, because location was also super important for me, just because it's not that far from Michigan. And then also, since we brought up the Siegel Education Award, like that benefit, for me, another reason I chose Chicago was just that a lot of schools in Chicago, and the major that I want to major in, which is social work as well, my master's, they just match the Siegel Education Award. So it was like I get double the amount of money, which was like a really good benefit. And I wanted to highlight that.
Awesome. All right. So let's go into kind of your day-to-day. What are some of your day-to-day or unexpected challenges that you face, and like what kinds of support do you lean into during these moments? And then kind of on the other side of that, what are some of the positives or the best parts of your day?
Okay, so for me, no day looks the same. I am currently a team leader. I'm also at a first year partnership. There are lots of positives. I love the students, but as a team leader, the team leader role looks a little bit different at our site this year, I feel like. So it kind of varies at any school. And for me personally, like in the morning, I probably have some time for myself, but I'm also now working in the classroom part-time, which is a joy in itself. So in the morning, I could either have meetings, or I could be running from classroom to classroom, checking on my core members. And then I'm running in and out of the classroom to provide support to students. In the afternoons, pretty much same thing. And then we support with after school programming. So I'm kind of overseeing that on Mondays, and then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I support independently with another teacher for after school program with the younger kids. And then challenges. I think this year just like overall, I think it's been a long year for us. My last year, like I said, was serving virtual and I'm in person. And I'm someone who like thrives off of that, but not everyone thrives off of that. My team has also gone through a lot of changes. So I think that's just been challenging because we've kind of like constantly had to start over in terms of like re-norming and shaping the team. So I think that's a challenge, but I think again, the joys outweighs the challenges. I collaborate with a lot of staff. I've gotten to make a lot of like great relationships with my team and staff, and students. And I love students and they motivate me and all.
My days usually look pretty similar. So I, as a first year ACM, I'm in the classroom most of the time. I get to school around 7:15, which is probably one of my biggest challenges. Waking up early is not super fun. And I provide classroom support from 8 until 12:30. And so that means I'm working directly with the teacher, doing kind of small academic help sessions with small groups of students or working one-on-one with a student in a classroom. And then in the afternoon, I work with the rest of my team to run an after school program, which we help with homework help for third through fifth graders. I think that's probably the best part of my day, being able to lead that program. And then also really developing relationships with students who keep coming back to that after school program and who have been coming the whole year. I think the bond is really impactful, hopefully for them, but definitely for me, as I can see them kind of grow and thrive and progress. In terms of challenges, I would say another big challenge that I didn't really consider before serving with City Year, but happens pretty frequently, is kids don't always, respond well to the academic coaching or the academic help that you're trying to provide. It doesn't always work, and that can feel kind of sad when you've spent time planning out, a lesson or, really want to help them. But that's the reality of the situation. And then when they finally do get it, it feels all the more better.
Yeah, same thing as Ava. I'm also a first year ACM, so I get there by like 6 or 7, not 6, but 7 to 7:15. Then we do like a little power greeting with the kids on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We switch it up. Mondays we do it in front of the school. Wednesday we do it like with the kindergarten first graders because for some reason they're like the most like they really love the chants and stuff. They call us the cheerleaders, and we have some of the little kids do it with us as well. And then Fridays we also do it in the front. And then also I'm also in the classroom from 8 to like 12:15. Then that's when after during lunchtime get a chance to do some work, backlog, and do some planning for the academic coaching or like the pack sessions, which is the plan academic coaching. Then I'm back in the classroom till 2:30, and that's when we do our after school program from like good like 2:30 to 4:45, and that's where I get a chance to have one-on-ones with my students that I normally don't talk to that much, but are in the program, just opening up and having those moments with them is like the best because like they'd be like, Miss, let me tell you what happened today. Just like having a little chat. It's just like they're like normal people. Like it's like your best friend almost if you just have those conversations with them. And that's one of my favorite parts.
Um, yeah, I guess I can talk for a little bit. One of the reasons that yeah, I guess my day starts the same as Ava's at 7:15, and then I'm just doing classroom support for first hour, second hour, fourth hour, and seventh hour geometry. And then I spend that time in class either working with students like in the classroom or pulling out like students who are on my focus list who I like pick closer to the start of the year who I like had a strong relationship or maybe needed more support. And working with them like in like the city room like 2 days a week, just more specifically like one-on-one type content. And that's probably like my favorite part of the day, like by far, is just working on one-on-one with students and just kind of like going over content until and like seeing them like slowly get it and like slowly like put stuff together as they like make progress on like new topics or even just like remember old stuff. Is just really, really great. Like I was working with one student today, like where at the start of the week, he was like really struggling, and I worked with him today, and like I pulled up like a similar problem we done earlier. He was like, "Wait a minute, I don't really do this," and he just like ripped through it in like 5 minutes, and I was just like, "Yes, he's learning." So yeah.
Nice, great. Thank you for sharing all of your stories, everyone. Um, so let's talk a little bit about self-care. Because like you all mentioned, you know, your days are long, you're working with students, you're doing multiple different things, and managing your own time. Was there a pivotal moment or time where you realized like you needed to be more intentional about your self-care practice? And what steps do you take to develop your self-care or to do self-care?
So I just want to say we just talked about this not that long ago, but January is the hardest month. It was the hardest month for me. Very pivotal moment, area of growth. But January, February was definitely like really hard, and it made me realize how much like I was pouring into my job and not really. It was like I was a team of one essentially. When it came to like being motivated, like having the joy, because I am very work driven and like the students are my why. And I think it was then where like I really had to learn like what was in my control. And I think if anybody struggles with that or you want to be in a helping profession, like I think City Year is definitely like a great experience because it really teaches you to prioritize yourself and to like beat burnout. Like at one point you all get burned out or we all get burned out. And City Year in my experience has taught me this year like to fight that or to prevent it and how to prevent it and how to focus on like what's in my control versus what's out of my control and be intentional about pouring into myself more and prioritizing myself. Oh, and then the steps I take is I try to be mindful of that and I have one day out of the weekend where I do nothing.
I completely agree. It's so easy to get burnt out in kind of a helping profession, especially with kids where you always have to be on in the school day and be cheerful and, you know, kind of excited and motivate them. But I think one thing I keep in mind a lot that City Year also has taught me is unless you're helping yourself, like you're not going to be helpful to anybody else. You know, if I'm burnt out, I'm not helping my students because I just can't. So I need to take care of myself so I can then take care of them. I think the best thing I do for self-care is I try to go to the farmers market every Sunday. It's one of my favorite things about living in LA. We have awesome farmers markets, and a lot of them in LA except EBT, which City Year Los Angeles will help you apply to. They have kind of a streamlined process for it. And so I'm able to get, you know, fresh food that I can cook and feel good about. Not only is it healthy, but kind of the act of cooking is something that's really relaxing for me, and a nice experience that I try to do. I try to cook every night. It doesn't always work out.
Yeah, I agree with what was just said. Yeah, it is easy to get burnt out because you're here for like 8 to 10 hours, and it's like a whole day from early in the morning to late evening. So it's like I'm still having trouble with it because it's like I really want to work. I want to get stuff done. I'm the type that I just need to get it done as soon as possible. But I am learning my steps as I go, and the steps I take is like unplugging, get not looking at the laptop when I get home. Doing some like meditations. Like if I have trouble sleeping, do a sleep one. If I'm like with my anxiety, I do an anxiety one. Just not thinking about work just for the rest of the like evening. Just unplugging and just getting as much rest I can during the weekends. And also another benefit, you get free like you get days off too. So it's like you can use those days off to just unplug and just focus on yourself.
Yeah, definitely just for me to avoid burnout, like what we've already talked about, you can't help other people if you can't help yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup, as that's the metaphor I've frequently connected with. And then like for me, what works as far as self-care, I guess exercise is something that for me works really well. Just before and after work, just making a point of doing that so that I can be it just sort of like to work off, I don't know, anxiety or whatever. And then making a point of like trying to make sure I have everything done like in school, because I do have like prep periods while I'm at school to like, send emails or do parent engagement or like make lesson plans or go over my students' tests or whatever I need to do. So making a point of doing that while I'm at school so that when I go home, I don't have to do it, because you do have enough time, but you do just have to make a point of doing that. So that way when I go home, I can like not think about work and like actually recharge a little bit. That's worked for me at least.
Awesome. Howard just put in the chat already, but if you all have any questions that you'd like to ask the panelists, please drop them in the chat. I'll open up for questions. I'm gonna ask one more question, but then I'll go straight to all of your questions. So feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can come off mute after my next question. But we'd love to hear from you all. So my last question is a little bit about like housing and roommates and relocating for those of you that had to relocate to your city, kind of talk about that process. And for those of you that were already in your city, maybe talk about how you found housing or roommates or any of that, if you had to do any of that sort of stuff.
So for my core year, when I got accepted into City of Detroit, I actually had a staff, like an IM, or an impact manager, who was my manager. That was like kind of like I don't want to say my buddy, but like my support, until I moved to like the state, and they were kind of helping me along the way, seeing if I did need help with housing, what City of Detroit could offer me with. Very similarly, when I moved to Chicago, I'm gonna like put a Chicago plug in there, but we have our own website, and it was super nice. And it was also very helpful because there was a neighborhood guide, for like people who weren't from Chicago or aren't familiar with the city. There was a neighborhood guide. There was also like an area where like it told you where most of the core did live outside of the neighborhood guide, to just give an idea of like where your school could potentially be placed near. And then there were resources or partnerships that City of Chicago has, if you need housing. How I got housing, my both years were actually like from previous alumni. So my core year, it was a first year who was looking for housing on their Facebook page, because they put you on a Facebook page. That's how I got housing. My TL year, an actual staff member who worked with housing and like people returning, kind of helped me or connected me to somebody that she knew who did City Year 3 years ago, and I got housing through there. So housing was pretty streamlined for me, and it was pretty easy. I didn't have to stress too much, because they were helpful in that area.
I think City or Los Angeles also provides a neighborhood guide. I kind of remember looking through one of those. For me, it was a little different. I was moving from New York to Los Angeles. So once I accepted my City Year job, I took like a week to go out to Los Angeles and look for housing. And like I already had a set budget, all of that. I live alone in a studio, which I think is pretty rare for core members actually. It's the smallest unit in my building, it's nothing fancy, but I found it, by myself, not through City Year, and I've had no problems with it so far. Oh, and City Year provides a relocation benefit if you're moving more than, I think it's 300 miles or something. I think it's a $250 add-on, or more than 50. I don't know why I said 300.
Yeah, for me, living situation, housing was pretty easy for me because I lived at home. I still live at home with my parents because it's cheaper that way. I'm just trying to save so I can get my own apartment. So that was pretty easy for me, and the commute was pretty good because my mom, she works in Westwood, so she was like, "I'll take you to work," because it's like right near each other, so it was like of benefit for me as well. So I didn't have too much trouble with housing.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same or similar boat where I didn't have, I feel like I don't have as much to add to discussion because I stayed in the same city and I was just able to stay where I was like during college and just continue to live there and just kind of told city or it's like, hey, um, I live in this area. I would like to go to these schools because they're near where I live. And I got one of those schools and it was pretty simple, at least for me. Um,
I just wanted to add, I don't know, it sounds like this might be streamlined for all sites, but for Detroit and Chicago, one thing I can say is they do take into account where you live and where they place you. They are mindful of like your commute. I know in Chicago, most of the Corps does like bus, so that is kept in mind about where you live and where your school is, because we do work early hours.
In
So-
LA, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead, Eva.
LA, they do take into account your commute, but they won't change your placement unless you live 2 hours away. So, it can be a long commute. I take the bus and it's like 20 minutes, but I think LA, it's a little harder with such a big area.
I see a question in the chat. It is a great question. So how difficult is it to live off the stipend? How do you save money? How do you budget?
So for my core year, I was making a lot less than what all of you make now. I want to throw that out there. My stipend was significantly less before they boosted it. Granted, Detroit, like their housing was cheaper, but my stipend after taxes was like a little over 500 every 2 weeks. And I mean, rent was cheaper in Detroit, but the stipend is about the same in Chicago. And as a TL, I have a boost. So I get like a little over 700 now. I will say for both, there are free things to do in the city. Lots of free things to do in Chicago. I didn't really get the chance to explore most of Detroit because we were living it like it was in the middle of a pandemic. But I did do a lot of things with my team that were free, or we did just team hangouts. And then, something that Ava said earlier was like food stamps. That is, I think, universally like is a benefit that you get being a Corps member. And so I had food stamps in Detroit and in Chicago, and they were really beneficial. And then it's helpful because you're working in a site where like with other people and you're building community with other people from the area who are also living on a stipend and getting food stamps. That's really helpful because you kind of budget with them, or you're like, they both know that like we're both broke. So yeah, just find things it's free to do in the city and make friends with people you work with.
Yeah, free things to do. So important. For me, I worked for 4 years or all through high school. I'm taking a gap year before college, so I just graduated from high school. But I worked for 4 years, and so I had a lot of savings. That's the only reason I can live off this stipend. I make about $650 after taxes every 2 weeks, which is not enough to live in Los Angeles. So you need to have savings, or even now I babysit on the weekends a lot to have that extra pocket money. Food stamps definitely are helpful, free stuff. Yeah, like finding kind of a side gig.
Yeah, for me, when I was at Cal State LA, they gave a lot of like refunds back. So I was saving those. And also each month when I do get paid, I try to take out money out my account so I can build up on that to save for school and save for groceries. I really don't do that much spending like that anymore because it's like, hey, I'm not really doing nothing else. So it's like save money. And I also donate clothes that I don't wear, donated some shoes that I don't wear, just saving up, just saving money, just to have to save for school and stuff like that. And also just taking into consideration that it is important to save money. And my brother, he also get the food stamps. So I don't really have to spend too much money on groceries because he has it as well. So it's really helpful.
Yeah, definitely between like, at least speaking for Milwaukee's like cost of living, I get the stipend of I think it's like $600, give or take like 20 something after taxes. And then yeah, between that and then food stamps, I'm pretty able to like still be able to have like money left over for like saving recreation. Because I don't spend too much on food because food stamps, and then just cover cost of living. And it's like, okay, you kind of have to mind it, but as long as you do, it's not too hard to save, at least in my experience. At least again, for Milwaukee, it does vary depending on cost of living for different places. So yeah.
Cool. And I do want to mention, Brenna just posted in the chat, but for those of you that will be joining us this next year, all of the stipends did increase. So the lowest stipend, I believe, is $890. So you'd be taking you'd be taking at least 800 or so home every 2 weeks. And then each of our sites, the cost of living and I'll just say the stipend is different across our different sites. So you can reach out to whichever of us invited you to the session to ask more about the specific stipend. Brenna also dropped a link where you can see the stipend for the city that you're applying to. But in addition to that, those other benefits that they all mentioned, I'll also go over some of those benefits at the end so you can kind of see, including all of those, it really does help to lower your costs. So the food stamps, right? The uniform that you don't have to pay for because you wear every day. And then the transportation passes, if your city does that, that helps to cover your transportation. And then also living with people, living with roommates helps to lower your cost. So there's a few of those things.
Oh, I just wanted to add, I know this is a benefit that like I feel like we didn't talk about, but City Year, I don't know if this is for all sites either, but I know they do provide medical insurance. And then this year we got dental and vision, which was really nice. And so like that's an underrated benefit, but the insurance is pretty good in my opinion. So in terms of saving for like costs like that, you really don't have to worry, I feel like, when it comes to those things. That was it. I just want to highlight that.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anyone else? You can type it in the chat or you can come off mute and just ask your question.
I think we've touched on it a little. Would each of you be able to speak more about any like extra groups you're in if you attend an affinity group, or a little bit more about your coordinator role on your team? Since we have some like other opportunities you can, choose to participate in.
Okay, I can start. So last year I was in Woke at City of Detroit. So that's an affinity group, women of color. I identify as biracial or Black, just to get that spiel. But I was also in another affinity group last year. I don't remember. I was in the national affinity group. So they have like local, like within your site, and then they have national affinity groups you could go to. So I was also in a few national affinity groups. City of Chicago, though, specifically, again, I don't know if things have changed in Detroit just because last year looked very different for all of us, but they do CY leads programs here. So I am part of like the Devo lead, which just means that like the development group at City of Chicago kind of trains us. We have a training coming up on grant writing, and then we get to help out with event planning and things like that. They also have like really good professional partnerships. So I'm in like a Deloitte career mentor partnership, which is Deloitte is like I think it's national consulting group. And they like paired us with mentors. They help us with our resume, cover letter, things of that sort, applying to jobs. I'm also in something new that they started this year, which is called Braven. It's a career accelerator course. And if you aren't in college or you're about to apply to college, a lot of colleges accept like that as a college credit, and you actually get a $500 stipend at the end of the course. So they're essentially paying you to take the course. And the course is all geared towards you, like updating your LinkedIn, making your resume, applying to like career accelerating opportunities so you secure one after City Year. And then I'm also in Woke here, and I'm in the Pride. affinity group here. Yeah, City of Chicago has come up with a lot of, I feel like, professional development and like inclusive spaces here. So I've kind of taken advantage of all of them. And I think that's another added benefit that I really like, is the importance on professional development.
So I am not part of any affinity groups at City or Los Angeles, but so my role, the like additional role, I'm forgetting the name of it, is working with recruitment and development. So it's called a RAD ambassador. So these additional roles, I think it's required that everybody on your team has one in addition to the work that you're doing. So I know somebody on my team runs the school Instagram. I know somebody else is the representative for something called Core Council, which is our like one person from each school will, once a month meet all together and talk about issues affecting different core members. What are some other roles? There's one where you can learn kind of more about Excel and like data entry. But the professional development, I also want to echo what you said, is so helpful at City Year. Deloitte also has a partner with City Year Los Angeles, where they were able to look over our resumes, provide all these different professional development opportunities. I know we've also had people come in from a lot of different entertainment companies because, it is LA. I think Morgan Stanley did something. A lot of sports teams will give us free tickets to their games, and like let us kind of meet different recruiters in that professional area. So that's been really helpful, and looking forward.
Yeah, for me, I'm a part of the Black Infinity group, and I also am a recruiters and admissions ambassador as well. Like Ava said, it's a lot of professional development. You learn how to do your resume, work on being the best at an interview, and it's like really helpful because being a city year, you're also learning as a person. You're learning who you are, and you're learning like what do you want to do in life, and also just finding that identity to like pass on, and then whatever knowledge you learn here, you can pass it on to your next job and or next set of people you work with.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like the amount of growth, like at least speaking for myself, that I've experienced this city year, like if I compare like who I am now compared to who I was in like August, like the amount of growth I've undergone is like kind of insane. Um, and then as far as like professional development this city year, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities for that where like one person in my team is on core council. One of them is like in charge of like running the newsletter. I'm in charge of being like our academic working group representative, which is like a collaboration of like different teams from different schools, like collaborating on specifically like math and different techniques and like stuff we found that works in classrooms and stuff that doesn't work. And then there's also I forget like the technical term, but there are like professional groups that like, everyone in city year by definition it is like it's not like a career thing. It's like, it's not a career 30 years type job. So there are like groups that get together of city year members who like all have like similar interests, be that like social work in grad school or like being a teacher after city year or stuff like that. And my interest was librarian, and there was nobody else for that, and nobody else had been interested in that. So like city year, like management or whoever was in charge of that just kind of like found a school librarian who was like willing to sort of like be that mentor, which I mean, for me, that was really awesome. So I really appreciated that as far as professional development goes. So yeah.
Cool. I see a question in the chat about if you all could share how often you spend time with your team at the school and outside of the school.
So last year for me, our hours did not change, although we were virtual. So we were working 8 to like roughly 5:36, which is a lot. My hours this year, like, and this is me working in school, like virtually, we did have like breaks and things like that. You do have a prep where you have time for you to work on things. And my class specifically last year, like had breaks to give the students like time away from the computer. And that was kind of like our own independent working time, or like we collaborated with our team. And then outside of school, I would say about 5 different times my manager really pushed for us to like meet up outside of school and like hang out. A, because we were all broke and that was something free to do, and B, because it just builds like a good team and team dynamic. This year as a TL, I don't hang out with any of my core members outside of school. That's just a rule that City Year has. I don't know if they hang out with each other outside of school, but this year is also different. I'm working in schools and I start anywhere from 7:45 to 8 a.m. And we end the day typically at 5:30. But I really like the students and I like supporting with after school. So sometimes I stay from 6 to 6:30. But those hours do count and those do go towards service hours.
So kind of similarly, as soon as I come to school at 7, I'm with my team and I'm spending time with them. We have a morning check-in called First Circle, where we just talk about any kind of issues we need to address before the start of the school day. Additionally, even when we're in the classroom, we have a group chat where we text pretty frequently if anything comes up with teachers or anything that needs to be addressed. Then during my planning period and lunch periods, I'm with my team. Planning period is like an hour. You get to kind of, I guess, plan out any lessons or do any data entry you might need to do. So during those times, I'm with my team in the city year room. And then I usually leave school around like 4:35. Our after school program ends at 4:15, and then my team will have a final meeting to go over anything at the end of the day that needs to be addressed. In terms of spending time outside of school, I honestly think it's really important to have work-life boundaries. I don't think about work outside of school, like when I'm not at work, and I don't hang out with my colleagues outside of work because I'm not at work, and that's something that's really important to me. But they're awesome, fabulous people. It's not them. It's just a boundary.
Yeah, so in school, I have a great relationship with my teammates. Oh my God, we're always in here, especially in the morning during first circle. We tell our little stories and stuff like that, just trying to just build up on the day and just figure out like what plans we need to do, what we need to do next, what how about ELT and all that good stuff. Just telling stories and stuff like that, laughing, goofing around and stuff like that. And then on breaks, sometimes we all see each other, we reunite, we talk about what's been going on during the class, how it's going, get some tips here and there, like what to do, how to manage, and what to do next. And then we also have like debriefs, and then we have trainings on Friday. So we have like from 1 to 5, 5:15, where we just train and do some debriefs, go over what clicked and what clunked, and also on our way to our cars and stuff, we're all like, oh my God, this day happened, this, that, and another with final circle and stuff like that. I hung out with my team a couple of times. They were like super fun experience. We just went to downtown LA and it was like the funnest experience ever. And I had a good time. And first time was going to Lucky Strike and it was super fun. We had a good time. And it's also important to have those moments because it's like you become like you get to know your colleagues outside of work instead of like in work. But that's just my personal opinion. It's like you get to know who they are instead of like inside work. You get just like, oh, they're cool people. Oh, they're this. Oh, I did not know that about them. Now I know. So that's super fun.
For me, I feel like I got really lucky with my team members because we spent a fair bit of time like hanging out outside of work. And that's in spite of the fact that we spend like 45 hours a week together every day, like 9 days from like Monday to Friday, or 5 days, 9 hours from Monday to Friday. You know what I mean? And yet, in spite of that, we still hang out after work sometimes, which is like kind of crazy if you think about it. But yeah, but it's still been like really fun to actually like do that and hang out and like we spent some time walking around downtown Milwaukee, or we went to a restaurant one time. We actually were I'm planning to hang out with some Tidier people like this weekend. So there's definitely like opportunities to do that. And been a really good experience for like team building and like, as we pointed out before, like, getting to know people, like who they are when they're not in a, work context, is definitely really great. And like, you form a stronger relationship with them. And then, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know we're coming close on time, so I'm gonna ask this last question and ask you guys to be a little bit short with this one so that we could close up. But this question was about the process of deciding which schools you go to. I can talk about placement, but if you all want to answer the second half of this question about how is it working with kids for so many hours?
I personally think it just depends. It depends on your personality. It depends on your energy. For me, it doesn't bother me because I get most of my energy from working with the kids, especially outside of like the normal classroom setting. That's why I like being like staying after school. I thrive off their energy. But I can say like similarity, some people on my team don't like that. By the end of the day, they're drained and they're ready to go home. They still love the students. They've just had enough.
I completely agree. I get energy from interacting with the kids. I love talking with them, especially fifth graders. I think it's a really nice age because they're still little kids. They haven't got like middle school meanness yet, but they're smart. And so I love talking with them. I get energy from that. And for school stuff, you don't get to decide what school you're in. So, yeah.
For me, yeah, I like working with them sometimes. Sometimes I'm not gonna just sit here and be like, oh, they're perfect angels. There are times where it's like, okay, you gotta relax. You gotta take a breather. Like, okay, let's focus here. Let's focus there. I'm not gonna say I get burnt out by them. It's just sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I haven't had energy like this as a kid. I was like, can I have some of your energy as a kid? Like, come back to me in my childhood. Can I have some of your energy? Because like they have so much energy, but they're so creative and so like amazing. It's like, Miss, did you know this? I'm like, I did not know that. Like, I learned a lot from my students. It's just sometimes their energy is like way up at top, and I'm just like, hey, relax, calm down. It's good. But yeah, it's a blessing being here and having the opportunity to work with fifth and sixth graders.
Yeah, so I worked with ninth graders. Sometimes the drama is a lot. Sometimes the stuff they're dealing with at home is also a lot. But then it's like there's also the flip of that where, most of the time, like the hardest part of my day is getting out of bed in the morning. And then once I'm actually here and like helping students, like if a student asks for help, I'm never just like, oh, this again. Like that just doesn't happen. I'm like, yeah, let me help you. It's good to like feel that the student can come to you to like ask questions. And if you like demonstrate that like early in the year and build that relationship, having that, that's just so rewarding to actually like, have that mutually beneficial like thing going on. So yeah, it can be exhausting. You definitely have to make sure, like what we talked about, like do self-care when you're not here. But for me, working with high schoolers is just absolutely fantastic. I love it. So yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank the panelists for sharing, for being here, for answering questions. Thank you all so much for just sharing your experience. I hope that this really helped to answer a lot of your questions for those of you that are here, and I hope that you decide to serve with us and make your decision. I'm going to really briefly show the benefits so that you can take a look at this. We talked about some of these already in this session, but there's the biweekly stipend, the education award that you get at the end of the year, free health, vision, and dental, access to counseling services, a transportation pass depending on city, a lot of professional development, partnerships with different universities, loan forbearance if you already have done college and have loans that you need to forbear during service. And then you also have time off, similar to the school calendar. You get all the national holidays off. You get a spring break, a winter break, and then 12 personal days. And there's also a childcare assistance. And then there's also the food stamps, which isn't on this list, but another benefit. You can definitely reach out to us, your service year advisors, Here are our emails. If you have any questions that you didn't get answered here today, definitely reach out to us and we would love to help answer some of your questions. You have until next Friday to make your decision, but reach out to us if you have difficulty with that deadline or if you just have any other questions. So our emails are here for the various cities. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us. We'll stay on for a little bit longer to see if there's any lingering questions or anything, but thank you, panelists. Thank you all for joining.